Yeah, my name is Greg Kasabin, and I'm a producer at 2K Games, working on Spec Ops: The Line.
My name is Corey Davis. I'm lead designer on Spec Ops: The Line.
Hello, my name is Matthias Wiese. I'm the art director of Spec Ops: The Line.
It's a military-themed shooter is set in Dubai after a series of catastrophic sandstorms pretty much decimates the place.
Spec Ops: The Line is the most provocative shooter you've ever played. And what does that mean? It means essentially that we have a very, very strong focus on narrative in the game, and we put the player into situations where he actually gets to make decisions between what is moral and what is necessary.
You play as a character named Captain Walker, who's an elite Delta Force operator who works with a small but very experienced team, and they're sent in to rescue this revered Colonel Conrad, who defied orders to evacuate the city along with the rest of the population because he wanted to stay behind and help some of the people who didn't have the means to get out of there on their own.
Yeah, like Dubai is first and foremost, it never has been used before, and we've been there and took lots of reference material as well. It's just a beautiful town. It's full of inspiring architecture. It's a place where big projects have a home. So they actually architects get the chance to build things they might not be able to build somewhere else in the world, and they do. They build artificial islands, huge towers that almost are kilometer high, and all this is of course ideal for game environment. And we fill all this up with sand, and we get a really awesome environment.
So you see these buildings that are somewhat pristine still on the inside, and yet they're covered in sand. And sometimes you'll find yourself thinking you're on, solid, flat footing, only to realize you're actually, maybe up on the 6th or 10th floor of a skyscraper. It's just the sand is piled on just that high. After these events.
So sand is one of our biggest focuses. Obviously Dubai is very unique, and then on top of that the sand adds a whole nother layer of awesome, in my opinion. It'll be quite frequently when you're able to actually dynamically choose to interact with these sand environment pieces. You can choose to shoot a window and cause a sand avalanche and walk up that new path that you've created. That's not something that we force the player to do. You could use that as a tactic to rush sand on top of enemies and destroy them and destroy objects in its path.
The line absolutely takes inspiration from the best that the genre has to offer. This is a game that is meant to be familiar to people who are fans of shooters and at the same time offer a very fresh experience to them. I think the finest games of the genre themselves, when you think about when they first came out, they too seemed influenced by previous games. So the genre is evolving kind of gradually in that regard, and we hope we hope the line steps it up accordingly. From this narrative perspective and through the use of this particular environment and also especially from the intensity of the combat. But it takes its influence from many sources, ranging from games to film to literature. So it's all kind of coming together in one package.
The player will have control over a number of very intuitive and simple commands that he can use to command the squad. He can tell them exactly where to go. He can tell them who to attack. He can tell them how to attack. He can call them to regroup. Those things, when the squad is commanded, they act very intelligently, and they're able to be a very good tool for the player to use. That being said, these are a group of Delta Force operators, and if you don't want to control the squad and you don't want to manage them at all, you don't have to. These guys will make intelligent decisions, and they will support whatever you're doing as a player, whether or not you control them directly.
The moral situation behind the game is sort of the entire context of the story. It's what the game is really about. It's expressed in a number of key story moments where you will have the ability to affect what happens in the kind of immediate present and in some cases later on. And we, like I said, we want that to evolve over time and for that to build over time, for you to gain empathy over the character and for your own feelings about the environment to change over the course of the game, because this is about a Captain Walker's journey, to the heart of darkness. So if we're successful, we want you to wind up feeling very differently at the end than you do at the beginning.
Obviously today our focus is on single player, but we do have a fully featured multiplayer in development, and we have a dedicated multiplayer team working on it right now. We're going to be offering more than your standard competitive modes that you've seen in a lot of our competitors' games, and also some of what you'd expect in the more cooperative realm as well. But actually what our ambition is with multiplayer and Spec Ops is to bring the experience as closely as possible to the story and the narrative. You can imagine that with our focus being so heavily pointed in the direction of narrative, without that tying into multiplayer would be pretty lame. And so we want to avoid that and make sure that the multiplayer experience actually complements the single player experience, and the other way around. You learn things about the story in multiplayer that you couldn't learn in single player. And we're going to give you a lot more information about that in the future. Spec Ops: The Line is being developed for the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, and the PC, and it's slated for release fall 2010.